Hi there, it's Carl Kwan here. In this video series, I'm going to be talking about hiring a law firm or lawyer in Seoul, South Korea. And in this first video, I'm going to be talking about initial considerations. Now, this video will help you to save time, prevent headaches, and ultimately save money. Because attorneys and law firms in Seoul are not created equal. And if you're reading this, or if you're watching this, you obviously have something significant at stake and don't want to make a mistake in choosing a law firm or lawyer to represent you in Seoul, South Korea. Now, just a quick disclaimer. This report is provided as a guide and is not meant to serve as anything more. I am not an attorney, nor do I have any official designation. So what I present is merely an opinion based on research and experience. Your experience and that of others may be different than what is presented in this report. Now we can get started. So initial considerations, there's actually three of them. Number one, size of the law firm and how it affects you, and some advice. Number two, Korean cultural influence on lawyers and law firms. And number three, the English ability of your Korean lawyer. So first of all, Korean law firms, does size matter? Now, just like in the West, law firms come in all shapes and sizes in Seoul. So do you go with the biggest law firm in Korea, or do you go for something smaller? In this initial first step, it's important to examine your own needs before choosing a law firm or attorney. If the purpose of your business is to complete an M&A, then it would be prudent to choose a larger firm that specializes in such transactions. This will be especially helpful when communicating with business partners, because large law firms in Seoul bring with them more clout to the table. This in turn may signal to your business partners your level of seriousness and commitment to the deal. Conversely, hiring a smaller Korean law firm or for more routine matters, such as incorporation, could help reduce costs. Also, it may be more likely that an experienced Korean lawyer will handle your case rather than someone less experienced. Large Korean law firms, in an effort to train new attorneys, may hand over certain tasks to new or less experienced lawyers. My advice? Hire on experience and track record. There are not as many law firms or attorneys in Seoul as one might expect, so it shouldn't be too hard to find a Korean attorney or law firm that is an expert for what you want done. Now, the second part of this, the cultural influence. So, Korean cultural influence on lawyers and law firms, and the question, you know who? You see, Korean culture is quite different from Western culture. There are many things related to culture that can affect how a Korean law firm or a Korean attorney conducts business. That being said, most international Korean law firms or lawyers know that dealing with foreign clients is different. These firms and attorneys are usually well versed in Western ways of doing things. However, that doesn't mean there aren't differences. As suggested by the heading of this section, who you know in Korea can determine and sometimes influence business transactions. Relationships built on mutual trust and friendship run deep in Korean culture and cannot be ignored. But a warning is necessary. If a Korean lawyer or law firm suggests that their relationship with certain parties can help sway an outcome in your direction, it's best to take this with a grain of salt. Or perhaps you may even want to consider employing the services of a different attorney or law firm. The reason being that this may be an indication that the attorney or firm cannot produce a positive outcome for you based on skills and abilities. Now, the next part of the report focuses on things you should do when going through the selection process for finding a Korean lawyer or law firm in Seoul. And the most important thing that I'm going to be talking about in this particular process is the English ability of your Korean lawyer. Now, this may seem obvious, but your Korean attorney in Seoul needs to possess the ability to understand native level English and be able to communicate clearly in English. This is not only for your benefit when communicating with your Korean lawyer, but English fluency is essential for communicating with other parties that may be involved in your situation. So imagine the frustration you would feel if the Korean attorney consistently gives you a deer caught in the headlights look whenever you spoke to him or her. Or if you're talking on the phone and there's a long pause, or if you always have to repeat yourself. Major pain in the you-know-where. Now, you can avoid the situation altogether by doing a preliminary check on the Korean lawyer's English ability. Don't trust English language test results such as a TOEIC or TOEFL score. Now I want to repeat that. Don't trust English language test results such as a TOEIC or TOEFL score. A high score on an English proficiency test is not a reliable indicator of actual English ability. You need to personally speak to the Korean attorney and all other individuals with whom you will be dealing with and judge their English ability for yourself. Judging by emails is totally unreliable because emails could be written by anyone. Now, here are some warning signs to look out for. First of all, long pauses or delays in answering you. Secondly, consistently asking you to repeat yourself. Third, giving answers unrelated to your questions. And fourth, passing you on to another person. So just to briefly summarize what I've just talked about today, I talked about the size of the law firm, how it affects you, and I've given you a little bit of advice. I've also talked about Korean cultural influence on lawyers and law firms and what you should do to avoid any trouble there. Finally, I talked about the English ability of your Korean lawyer, how important that is, and I gave you some warning signs to look out for as well. So in the next video, I'm actually going to be talking about 11 things you must find out before hiring a Korean lawyer or law firm in Seoul. So thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to talking to you again very, very soon.